The twin suns of Zyphra hung low in the sky, casting long, fiery shadows across the jagged landscape. Lieutenant Arik Voss crouched behind a jagged rock formation, scanning the horizon with a careful, practiced eye. His squad had been assigned a reconnaissance mission along the planet's northern ridge, a sector known for skirmishes with the native inhabitants, the Illyrians. These blue-skinned aliens were swift, intelligent, and fiercely territorial, making every mission unpredictable. Arik adjusted his visor, scanning for movement. "Keep your heads low," he murmured, his voice barely audible through the comm link. "We don't know what's waiting for us out there." The squad moved silently, their boots crunching against the sharp stones and loose dirt. Arik's mind was sharp, focused on every detail: the angle of the ridge, the distant shadow of alien patrols, the way the wind carried scent and sound across the rocky terrain. He had been in hundreds of skirmishes, but the frontier of Zyphra always carried the same tension: the unknown. Suddenly, a faint sound caught his attention, a soft, pitiful cry that did not belong to any human. He froze, holding up his hand. The squad halted behind him, confusion written on their faces. "Did you hear that?" one of his team whispered. Arik nodded, listening intently. The sound came again, a tiny, trembling wail, almost like a child calling for help. It was faint, almost swallowed by the wind, but unmistakable. "Stay here," Arik ordered. "I'll check it out." He moved cautiously toward the source of the noise, every sense alert. As he crested a small ridge, he spotted a small figure huddled among jagged rocks. A tiny, fragile creature, its skin glowing faintly blue under the fading sunlight. Its wings were folded awkwardly, torn in several places, and its luminous eyes were wide with fear. Arik's heart tightened. This was no ordinary alien patrol or soldier. This was a child. The creature shrank back as he approached, its small voice trembling. "Don't hurt." Arik held his hands out slowly, careful not to alarm it further. "I won't hurt you," he said gently. "I'm here to help." For a long moment, the child's eyes studied him, searching for any sign of danger. Then, with a small, trembling sigh, it relaxed just enough for Arik to see the injuries clearly. Cuts along its wings, bruises across its delicate body. He knew immediately that leaving it here would be certain death. Alien patrols often killed intruders without hesitation, and even the harsh environment of Zyphra was enough to claim the weak. Arik carefully lifted the child into his arms, mindful of every movement. "You're safe now," he whispered. As he carried the child back to the squad, Arik felt a strange connection forming, an instinctual drive to protect, a bond that transcended species. His squad's reactions were mixed. Some looked shocked, others suspicious, and a few openly disapproved. "Lieutenant," one of them said, his voice tight, "we can't take it. You know the orders. We leave enemies dead." "That's the rule." Arik shook his head. "This isn't a soldier. It's a child." "I'm not leaving it here to die." Tension filled the air. The squad had been trained to follow orders without hesitation, yet Arik's conviction was clear. In that moment, they understood that this mission had changed. It was no longer about reconnaissance, it was about survival and protection. They set up a temporary camp in a sheltered crevice, away from the main ridge where patrols could see them. Arik tended to the child's injuries with careful hands, using limited medical supplies to clean the cuts and wrap them gently. "Name?" he asked softly, knowing the child might not understand human words. The child's eyes glimmered as it whispered a single word. "Leary." Arik nodded. "Leary, you're safe with me." As night fell, the twin moons of Zyphra rose, casting a pale light over the rocky terrain. The wind carried a strange mix of scents: burned stone, alien flora, and the distant salt of underground rivers. Arik sat beside Leary, watching as the child's breathing slowly evened out. For the first time, he allowed himself to relax, though he knew this calm was fragile. He thought about the larger implications. Protecting Leary was dangerous. If the alien patrols discovered the child missing, they would hunt him relentlessly. And if his own command found out, Arik could face severe consequences, even court-martial. Yet despite the risks, he could not turn away. Leary's life was more important than any rule or order. Hours passed in quiet vigilance. Arik remained alert, listening for any sign of danger. Occasionally Leary stirred, calling out softly in a language Arik could not understand, yet somehow seemed to convey both fear and curiosity. As he watched the child, Arik reflected on the strange courage humans could show in the face of the unknown. He had fought countless battles, faced deadly foes, and seen horrors most could not imagine, but this was different. This was about nurturing, protecting, and trusting in the bond between two beings who should have been enemies by every standard. A sudden rustling in the rocks made him tense. He grabbed his weapon, scanning the darkness. A shadow moved closer, and he braced for combat. But then a small figure emerged, one of his squad, wide-eyed and pale. "Lieutenant, you're not going to believe this," the soldier whispered. "I saw them. The aliens. They're watching us." Arik's jaw tightened. "Stay calm. Don't move. Let me handle it." From the darkness, glowing eyes appeared, smaller than any adult Illyrian but larger than Lyri's, hinting at their presence as a scout. Arik remained still, showing no sign of aggression. The alien watched for a long moment, then disappeared into the shadows, leaving only silence behind. Arik exhaled slowly, knowing this was only the beginning. Protecting Lyri would not be easy. Every step forward would carry danger. Every choice could be life or death. Yet, as he looked down at the small, luminous child in his arms, he felt a surge of determination. No matter the risks, no matter the consequences, he would keep this child safe. Night deepened over Zyphera. The wind whispered through the rocks, carrying faint echoes of distant creatures and unseen dangers. But in their small, sheltered crevice, a human soldier and an alien child found an unlikely peace. A fragile bond formed in the midst of uncertainty. As Arik closed his eyes for a brief rest, Lyri's small hand curled around his finger. It was a simple gesture, but it carried trust, hope, and the silent promise that neither would face the darkness alone. Tomorrow would bring challenges, confrontations, and impossible choices. But for now, in the quiet of Zyphera's night, Arik Voss had made a choice that would change everything. He would protect the enemy's offspring. And in doing so, he had begun a story that would test the limits of courage, compassion, and the strength of the human spirit. The sun rose over Zyphera, painting the jagged rocks and valleys in shades of gold and crimson. Lieutenant Arik Voss was already awake, scanning the horizon with his visor, alert for any movement. Lyri, the small alien child he had rescued, stirred beside him, stretching delicate wings and blinking at the sunlight. Arik watched carefully as Lyri attempted to stand. The child's injuries had healed slightly overnight, but the torn wings still prevented flight. Gently he knelt and helped Lyri balance. "Easy, don't rush," he said. Lyri nodded, though the gesture was almost instinctive rather than conscious. The squad had been restless since Arik's decision to protect Lyri. Murmurs filled the camp as they gathered for a quick breakfast of rations. Some soldiers glared, others whispered, and a few avoided his gaze entirely. "Lieutenant," said one, finally breaking the silence, "we can't hide it forever. If the patrols find out the child is missing, they'll come for both of you, and if command learns you're harboring an enemy, you'll be in serious trouble." Arik nodded, understanding the risks. "I know," he replied calmly, "but I made a choice. The child is alive because of that choice. Nothing else matters right now." Lyri climbed onto a rock, attempting to imitate the soldiers' training exercises. Arik couldn't help but smile. The child's curiosity was boundless, and its resilience was remarkable. Despite its injuries, it moved with an energy and determination that seemed almost human in its essence. The morning passed quietly, but Arik's thoughts were busy. He knew that hiding Lyri indefinitely was impossible. Enemy patrols scoured the region daily, and the child's presence could easily be discovered. Yet returning Lyri to its own kind, its mother, posed another set of challenges. Would the alien parent understand his actions? Or would they see him only as a thief or enemy? Arik decided he needed more information before making any permanent choices. He approached Lyri carefully, crouching to meet the child's luminous eyes. "We're going to need to move," he said softly. "I can't keep you here forever. We need a plan." Lyri tilted its head, wings fluttering nervously. Though it could not speak human words well, its eyes seemed to convey understanding. The bond between them, fragile but real, had begun to grow stronger. Lyri had come to trust him completely, and that trust weighed heavily on Arik's conscience. By midday, Arik and his squad had packed up the small camp. They moved carefully through the rocky valleys, avoiding open areas where patrols might spot them. Lyri clung to Arik's side, its small fingers curling around his arm for balance. Each movement, each step reminded Arik of the responsibility he had undertaken. As they navigated a narrow canyon, the sound of wings brushing against stone echoed behind them. Arik froze, signaling the squad to halt. Leary's eyes widened in alarm, its body tense. From the shadows, a group of Illyrian scouts emerged, their expressions curious but cautious. Arik held up a hand in peace. "We're not here to fight," he said calmly, though his heart raced. The scouts paused, their glowing eyes studying him and the child. One of them stepped forward, smaller than the others, and gave a soft chirp, a sound that Leary immediately recognized. The child ran forward, emitting a joyful cry that echoed through the canyon. Arik realized this small scout had a connection with Leary. Perhaps the child's own kind had been searching for it, unaware of the human who had saved its life. The thought made him tense. If the scouts discovered Leary's injuries, they might assume the worst. He knelt beside Leary and whispered, "Stay close to me. We'll get through this." The scout approached slowly, its movements careful and deliberate. It examined Leary's wings, chirping softly as if asking questions. Leary responded with gestures pointing to the injuries and then to Arik. The communication was silent but clear. The child was explaining that this human had protected it. Arik held his breath. The scout glanced at him, its glowing eyes narrowing slightly. Then, unexpectedly, it chirped a sound of acceptance and returned to the shadows. Leary looked up at Arik with gratitude, and for a moment, the human soldier felt a strange sense of pride. He had earned the trust of this child, and in some way of its kind. The day continued with careful navigation through the canyon. Arik's mind was busy, calculating routes, assessing threats, and considering the next steps. He knew he couldn't keep Leary hidden forever. Returning to his base was risky, as their ship could be traced or intercepted. Yet venturing deeper into enemy territory carried equal danger. As evening approached, they found a secluded cave to rest. Arik tended to Leary again, carefully checking the child's wings and cleaning minor scrapes. Leary leaned against him, its tiny body relaxed in a way that only complete trust could allow. Arik spoke softly, more to himself than to the child. "You've changed everything. I've spent my life following orders, fighting battles, and I've never felt anything like this. Protecting you, it feels right. Even if it's dangerous, even if everyone else disagrees, it feels right." The night deepened and the cave became a quiet sanctuary. Outside, the wind whispered through the rocks, carrying distant sounds of alien life. Arik remained vigilant, knowing that danger could come at any moment. Yet within the cave there was a fragile peace, a moment of calm in a world filled with uncertainty. Leary stirred, looking up at him with luminous eyes. It reached for him, and he took its small hand gently in his own. The gesture was simple, but it carried meaning, a promise of protection, trust, and care. Arik felt a deep responsibility, knowing that the child's life depended entirely on him. He reflected on the choice he had made. Every instinct, every lesson from years of combat, told him to follow orders and leave the child behind. But something in his heart refused to accept that. Compassion, courage, and the desire to protect life. These qualities, he realized, defined humanity in its truest form. And for the first time, he felt that being human was not just about fighting, it was about choosing to do what was right, even when it was hard. Hours passed in quiet observation. Arik kept watch at the cave entrance while Leary slept, wings gently folding around its small body. The human soldier's thoughts drifted to the larger implications of his choice. Protecting the child was not only a moral decision, it could have consequences that reached far beyond Zyphora. If word of this spread, it might change how humans and Illyrians interacted in the future. Perhaps it could even create a bridge between their species. Suddenly, a distant roar echoed through the valley, a sound unlike anything Arik had heard before. Leary stirred, alarmed, and Arik immediately grabbed his weapon. Shadows moved in the distance, but it was unclear whether they were predators, enemy scouts, or simply the echoes of the planet's natural life. Arik's mind raced. Every choice from this point on would require careful judgment. Moving too quickly could endanger them both, but staying still might invite danger as well. He considered the risks and weighed them against the child's safety. The answer was clear. He would not abandon Leary. Not now, not ever. As dawn approached, Arik felt a renewed sense of purpose. Protecting the child was no longer just a mission. It was a responsibility, a challenge, and an opportunity to demonstrate the best of humanity. He had chosen compassion over orders, life over strategy, and trust over fear. Leary opened its eyes as the first light of morning touched the cave. It looked at Arik with a mixture of curiosity and understanding, as if sensing the gravity of the choices they both faced. Arik smiled, brushing a strand of luminous hair from the child's face. "We'll figure this out together," he said. In that moment, a bond was solidified, a bond that would drive the story forward, testing courage, morality, and the very essence of what it meant to be human in a universe filled with uncertainty and conflict. Outside the cave, the world of Xiphora waited, full of challenges, dangers, and possibilities. But inside the cave, a human soldier and an alien child had discovered something rare and powerful: trust, loyalty, and the first sparks of hope that could change everything. Arik took a deep breath, preparing for the journey ahead. Every step, every decision would shape the path of both human and alien lives. And as he looked at Leary, he knew one thing for certain: he had made the right choice. Protecting the child was not only a matter of survival, it was a testament to the strength, courage, and heart of humanity. And so, with the first light of Xiphora's suns warming the rocky valley, Lieutenant Arik Voss made a promise, not just to Leary, but to himself and to all the worlds yet to come. He would protect this child no matter the cost. Days passed on the jagged surface of Xiphora, and Arik Voss grew more certain of one thing: protecting Leary was no simple task. Each morning he checked the child's wings, cleaned minor injuries, and guided Leary through exercises to strengthen its fragile muscles. Despite the difficulties, the child's resilience amazed him. Every small victory, a step forward, a successful grasp of a tool, even a tentative smile, reminded him that life, even in the harshest conditions, could thrive when given care. But Arik knew their safety was temporary. Xiphora was alive with danger. Hidden predators prowled the rocky valleys, and alien patrols were relentless in searching for the missing offspring. Yet he felt something deeper was at play. Someone or something was watching. High above the valley, hidden among floating rock formations and shifting shadows, Kalara observed. She was the mother of Leary, a formidable Illyrian leader known among her people for intelligence, courage, and unshakable resolve. When word reached her that her offspring had vanished, she had been consumed with both fury and worry. Leary was not just a child, it was a symbol of hope for her people. Losing it could demoralize the Illyrians, possibly even spark chaos among the clans. Kalara had tracked the faint signs of Leary's movement for days, moving silently through the air and using senses humans could never comprehend. She was careful, deliberate. And then she saw him, the human who had dared to protect her child. From her vantage point, she watched as Arik tended to Leary, carefully wrapping torn wings and whispering soothing words. The sight surprised her. Few creatures, she thought, would care for the life of one who was technically an enemy. Most humans would have left the child to perish. Yet here was one defying the rules of war, risking his own life for the well-being of a being that should have been his foe. Kalara felt a stirring of something unfamiliar, a mixture of admiration, curiosity, and caution. She observed the human closely. His movements were precise, his attention unwavering. Leary's responses were tentative at first, then gradually confident, as if sensing safety in the human's presence. That evening, Arik set up a temporary camp in a hidden crevice. He carefully placed Leary on a soft patch of moss and began preparing a small meal. Leary watched, fascinated by the human's methodical actions. Despite not fully understanding human tools and rations, the child mimicked some of the movements, its tiny hands experimenting with the utensils. "You're learning fast," Arik said with a soft smile. "One day you might teach me things I can't even imagine." Leary's eyes glimmered with what seemed like amusement, a tiny spark of joy in a harsh and uncertain world. From the distance, Kalara watched, noting the subtle nuances of their interaction. She saw trust forming between the human and the child, something rare and extraordinary. The human's protection was not just physical, it was emotional, instinctive, and pure. This was a quality her own kind often overlooked, focused as they were on survival and strength. Kalara's instincts told her that this human was different. He possessed a courage and compassion that transcended species boundaries. And as she observed, a thought began to take shape, one that made her pause. Perhaps this human could be more than a soldier. Perhaps he could become a bridge between their worlds. Meanwhile, Arik remained unaware of the silent observer. He was focused entirely on Leary, who had grown increasingly playful despite its injuries. The child hopped around the camp, testing its wings, laughing in a way that warmed even the human's hardened heart. Arik's mind wandered to questions of morality and trust. He knew hiding Leary was risky, but returning the child to its mother might not be the right choice either. Could he allow Leary to return, knowing the dangers it might face? Could he trust the alien mother to understand his motives? Night fell, and the twin moons rose over Zyphera, bathing the valley in silver light. Arik built a small fire and sat beside Leary, who leaned against him exhausted from the day's exercises. He reflected on the strange twists of fate that had brought them together. What started as a routine patrol had become a mission of the heart. He had fought countless enemies, faced countless dangers, but none had mattered as much as the responsibility he now bore. High above, Kaelara observed the scene. She watched as Arik whispered to Leary, offering comfort, encouragement, and care. It was a bond that fascinated her. She saw qualities in this human that her species had rarely witnessed, qualities that could not be measured in strength or speed, but in character. Her curiosity deepened. Could a human truly protect one of her kind without expecting anything in return? Could he act purely out of compassion even when faced with risk, uncertainty, and danger? The answer, she realized, was yes. And with that realization came a new sense of intrigue. She did not simply want her child returned. She wanted to understand this human who had defied the rules of war. As the night deepened, Arik's thoughts turned to the future. He knew he could not stay in one place forever. The patrols would continue searching, and the environment of Zyphera was unforgiving. But he also knew that Leary had come to depend on him. Every movement, every word, every gesture of care had created a fragile but undeniable bond. "You're safe here, Leary," he whispered. "I won't let anything happen to you. Not now. Not ever." Leary blinked up at him, eyes full of trust, and curled against him in response. Kaelara watched silently, analyzing every detail. She observed how Leary responded to the human's voice, how it leaned into his presence, and how fear seemed to fade in his care. Her mind began to calculate possibilities. If this human could be trusted with her child, perhaps he could also be trusted with larger responsibilities. Perhaps he could learn her ways, understand her people, and help create a future where humans and Illyrians could coexist. But Kaelara was cautious. Trust was not given lightly. She had ruled her people for decades, and every decision carried weight. Yet the human before her had displayed something she had rarely seen, an instinctive, unwavering protection for life, even life that was not his own. It was a quality that could not be ignored. As dawn approached, Kaelara remained in the shadows, unseen but fully aware of the human and child below. She felt an unusual mix of respect and fascination. This soldier, this human, had made a choice that few in her species would understand. And in that choice, she saw the potential for something extraordinary. Morning arrived with the golden light of Zyphera's sun spilling over the rocky terrain. Arik rose first, stretching and preparing for another day of cautious travel. Leary followed, hopping awkwardly over small rocks, wings flaring slightly as it practiced balance and strength. Arik paused, looking out over the valley. "We need to keep moving," he said softly. "We can't stay here. The patrols will find us eventually, and I won't risk your safety." Leary nodded, understanding more in gestures than words, and they began their journey once more. From above, Kaelara followed, careful to remain unseen. She observed every move, every interaction, and every protective gesture. Her admiration for the human grew, as did her curiosity. This soldier had not only saved her child, but had earned its trust, something that not even she had expected. As the day progressed, Arik led Leary through valleys and crevices, avoiding known patrol routes and dangerous terrain. He taught the child basic survival skills, how to find water, recognize safe plants, and move quietly. Leary learned quickly, its intelligence and curiosity remarkable for one so young. Kaelara continued to watch, noting how Leary's confidence grew under the human's guidance. She saw a connection forming that was more than survival. It was emotional, instinctive, and powerful. And in that realization, she felt something new stirring within herself, a desire to understand, to learn, and perhaps to engage with the human who had shown such courage and care. By evening, Arik and Leary found another temporary shelter. This one hidden among dense foliage near a small stream. Arik prepared a simple meal, and Leary helped as best it could, mimicking his actions with clumsy enthusiasm. Arik smiled, feeling a sense of hope he had not experienced in years. Protecting the child was difficult, dangerous, and uncertain, but it was also deeply rewarding. Every small victory reminded him of why he had chosen this path, and high above, Kailara continued to observe, silently acknowledging the human's bravery and compassion. She understood that this was no ordinary soldier. He was something far rarer, something her species had rarely encountered. And she began to realize that understanding him, and perhaps even guiding him, might hold the key to a future none of them could yet imagine. In that quiet, tense moment, 3 lives, human alien child and alien mother, were connected in ways that would shape the destiny of 2 worlds. And though they did not yet meet face to face, the bonds of trust, courage, and curiosity had begun to form, setting the stage for challenges, discoveries, and choices that would test the limits of loyalty, morality, and the human spirit. The next day dawned with a soft golden light spilling across the jagged plains of Zephora. Arik and Leary had been moving cautiously through the narrow valleys, avoiding known patrol routes. The small alien child was growing stronger each day, learning quickly under Arik's careful guidance. Its wings, once fragile and torn, now flexed with tentative strength. Leary's confidence in him was evident. It no longer clung to him constantly but explored its surroundings, returning frequently to share what it had discovered. Yet danger was never far. Arik could sense it not in specific threats but in the tension that vibrated through the air, a presence watching, waiting. And soon enough that presence revealed itself. From the shadow of a jagged rock formation a figure emerged silently. It moved with grace and authority, every step measured, its eyes glowing faintly in the morning light. Kailara, the mother of Leary, had come. She was larger than Leary, her form strong and majestic, radiating intelligence and power. But what caught Arik's attention most was not her size or her strength. It was her gaze, steady and calculating, as if she were weighing every choice, every action, every intention. "Step back," Arik said cautiously, placing himself between Leary and the alien. His hand rested lightly on his weapon, though he had no desire to use it. "I won't let anyone hurt the child." Kailara's voice was calm, melodic, yet commanding. "I mean no harm," she said. "I am Leary's mother, and you have taken care of my child." Arik nodded, keeping his stance relaxed but alert. Yes, Leary needed help. "I did what I thought was right." Kailara studied him for a long moment. She could feel the truth in his words. Humans were often unpredictable, acting either out of fear or aggression. But this one, he acted out of compassion. That was rare. That was extraordinary. "I have come to test you," Kailara said finally, "to see if your intentions are genuine. Your actions have saved my child, but will you act with wisdom and honor in the trials ahead?" Arik's jaw tightened slightly. "I do not seek reward. My only concern is Leary's safety. I will do whatever it takes to protect the child." Kailara considered this. Then, in a movement both graceful and sudden, she gestured to the surrounding terrain. "If your loyalty is true, you will follow me. You will face challenges that test courage, intelligence, and compassion. Only then will you prove worthy in the eyes of my people." Arik hesitated for only a moment. Protecting Leary had already changed the course of his life. Facing more danger was not new, but he understood that this was not simply a battle. It was a test of character. He nodded. "I understand. We will follow you." Over the next several days, Kailara led Arik and Leary through difficult terrain, where challenges were not always physical but moral and mental. In one valley, they came upon a ravine with rushing water. Several smaller creatures, trapped by the sudden rise of the stream, cried out for help. Arik immediately leapt into action, using ropes and clever tools to rescue them, teaching Leary to assist safely. Kailara watched silently, noting the human's careful planning and unwavering concern for life, not just for the child, but for all living beings. On another day, they navigated through a dense forest of towering crystalline plants, where natural traps and illusions tested perception. Auric's skills, honed from years of reconnaissance, allowed him to guide both Leary and the alien scouts safely through the hazards. Again, Kalara observed, recognizing the unique combination of intelligence, courage, and moral clarity that the human possessed. Through each trial, Leary's abilities also became evident. The child could sense subtle changes in the environment, detect danger, and communicate emotions in ways that humans often overlooked. Auric marveled at these talents and integrated them into their strategies, allowing Leary to participate meaningfully in challenges, rather than merely being protected. One evening, after a particularly strenuous test of endurance, Kalara finally spoke. "You have proven much," she said. "Not only bravery, but wisdom. You care for life beyond your own, and you do not expect reward. These qualities are rare." Auric looked at her, cautious but hopeful. "Does this mean Leary can stay with me?" Kalara's eyes softened slightly. "Your bond with the child is strong. It is genuine. But the world is dangerous. You must learn more, understand more, before any permanent choice can be made. There is still much you do not know of my people and of our responsibilities." Over the following days, Kalara continued to observe them. She began to engage more directly, teaching Auric small lessons about her culture, her people, and their philosophies. She demonstrated that intelligence and courage alone were not enough. Empathy, respect, and understanding of life in its many forms were essential. Auric absorbed the lessons eagerly, seeing in them the same values that humanity prized: loyalty, compassion, and the willingness to protect others, even at personal cost. Through these interactions, Kalara's feelings shifted. She was no longer just a mother testing a human. She was learning to respect him, to admire his actions, and to understand the depth of his character. The bond between human and alien mother began to form, subtle but undeniable, rooted in mutual recognition of courage and morality. One night, as they rested near a calm river, Kalara spoke softly. "You have acted with honor, Auric Voss. You have protected my child, faced trials without fear, and demonstrated wisdom beyond your species. These qualities are rare, and I wish to understand you, not as an enemy, but as one who has earned respect." Auric's heart raced. He had expected gratitude, perhaps cautious acknowledgement, but not admiration from an alien leader, a mother whose species had often seen humans as invaders. He nodded respectfully. "I only did what I believed was right. I do not seek recognition. My duty is to protect life, and that includes Leary's." Kalara smiled faintly, a gesture both alien and warm. "Then we will continue together," she said. "Your guidance and care for Leary will teach not only the child but also my people that humans are capable of compassion beyond war. And perhaps you will teach me as well." For the first time, Auric felt a sense of true partnership forming. He realized that his journey was no longer solitary. It was a journey of trust, understanding, and alliance, one that could reshape the future of two worlds. Weeks passed, and Auric, Leary, and Kalara moved through the varied landscapes of Sci-Fi. Word had reached both human and Illyrian patrols that the missing child had survived, but no one had yet discovered the truth of who was protecting it. Auric's skills and Kalara's guidance allowed them to navigate challenges that would have been impossible alone. Suddenly, a new threat emerged, a faction of Illyrians who sought to exploit the conflict between humans and Kalara's people. They aimed to capture Leary and use the child as leverage, believing that either side would act recklessly to protect it. Auric recognized the danger immediately. This was not merely a test of bravery. It was a battle to protect life itself. Kalara stood beside him, her form commanding and graceful. "We will face them together," she said. "Trust in your instincts, human. You have proven yourself already." Auric nodded, tightening his grip on his weapon. Leary, though small, stood confidently between them, wings flaring as if ready to participate. The child's presence reminded him of what was at stake, not just a single life, but the possibility of unity and understanding between species. The confrontation was intense. The enemy faction attempted to ambush them in a narrow canyon, but Auric's strategy, combined with Kalara's agility and Leary's unique abilities, allowed them to outmaneuver the attackers. Auric directed movements, predicted threats, and guided both Leary and Kalara through the battle with precision. By the end of the skirmish, the enemy was defeated without unnecessary loss of life. Auric had once again demonstrated that humans, when guided by morality and intelligence, could protect and lead beyond mere combat. Kailara's admiration deepened. She had seen not only bravery and skill, but also the essence of human compassion, a rare and powerful force. In the aftermath, Kailara approached Auric, her glowing eyes calm and thoughtful. "You have shown courage, wisdom, and compassion beyond what my people expected. You have protected Lyri, faced impossible challenges, and proven that humans can be allies, not just invaders." Auric bowed his head slightly. "I only did what was right. Lyri's life is precious. That is enough for me." Kailara's gaze softened. "Then you shall have more than enough. You will remain with us not as a soldier under orders, but as one who has earned trust and honor. Lyri's place is with you, and so is mine. In recognition of your courage, the three of them, human, child, and alien mother, stood together as the sons of Scifi set, casting long shadows and painting the sky with brilliant colors. In that moment, a new alliance was born, one that transcended fear, war, and species. It was a bond forged in courage, trust, and the unyielding strength of the human spirit. Over the following days, humans and Illyrians began to collaborate more openly. Auric trained with Kailara's people, sharing strategies, compassion, and the lessons learned from protecting Lyri. Lyri thrived under their combined guidance, a living symbol of unity and hope. Auric realized that protecting Lyri had changed him, but it had also changed the world around him. Through compassion, courage, and unwavering dedication, humans and Illyrians began to find common ground, a foundation for peace and collaboration that could reshape the future. And as Kailara looked at him, admiration and respect shared.